Hi, my name is Julie Mahler, and I am a registered dietitian nutritionist with IRG, Physical and Hand Therapy Company. Today, I'm going to be talking about feeding picky eaters. I'm covering what is picky eating, typical picky eating behaviors, and how to cope with picky eating. I realize it can be quite frustrating and worrisome, and I'm hoping to give some helpful tips along the way. Now, through ChildStrive, in case you don't know, you do have a feeding team or specialist that you can be working with, or perhaps you're already working with one. I'm going to be giving general guidelines, and so if you decide you want to try something or some type of change that I have been talking about in this program, then please check with your feeding team or specialist first before making any type of change. So let's get started. In case you did not know, picky eating is very typical of preschoolers. It's another step in their process of growing up and becoming more independent. This doesn't mean it's not frustrating, it just means it is normal. And if your child seems to have plenty of energy and is growing well, then most often they are getting the nutrients that they need. But if you are concerned, if you don't think your child is getting those nutrients, there are people that you can go to. You can go to your feeding team, you can see your specialist, you can see your primary care physician, or you can meet with a registered dietitian. Some typical picky eating behaviors that when I say that, this is kind of what I'm thinking of. And these are just a few of the variety of behaviors out there. But one is that refusal of foods. And this can be based on texture, it can be based on color. If the food is red or if it's green, the child might not eat it. If it contains nuts or if it contains seeds, if it's more smooth in texture, or if it smells a little bit funny to them, or perhaps the food is touching each other. These can all be reasons why a child will refuse to eat. Another typical behavior is that the child only eats a certain type of food. And one day they might wake up and they only will eat one or two foods, and that can last for several weeks. And again, it can be worrisome, but it is another behavior that is quite typical. The child might waste time at the table. They might have no appetite. They might seem completely uninterested in eating the food. They might be distracted. So another behavior that can be hard to manage and hard to understand, I guess, as an adult. Or the child might simply be unwilling to try new foods. And as a parent, you serve a nice dinner of something new to the family, and the child simply refuses to even try a bite. And all of these behaviors are things that can happen during those preschool years and actually beyond. And again, you can be like, what can I do about this? How can I help this situation? So I'm hoping to help. So how to cope with picky eating. One is let your kids be produce pickers. And what I mean by that is if you're going to the grocery store, when you have time, make sure you make it like a project or kind of like a field trip. Please don't try this if you're in a hurry or you're crunched for time or you need to get in and out of the store quickly, because with preschoolers, you have to have a whole lot of patience and a whole lot of time. But so let's say you've been able to set aside some time, maybe it's a Saturday or a Sunday where your schedule's not quite so tight, and you go to the store and you let the child pick out. It could be a fresh fruit or a fresh vegetable. I would recommend doing one at a time, because then they can try it, but you don't end up, if they don't like it, you don't end up throwing out food. You could try frozen foods. You could try frozen fruit or vegetables, but please look for those ones that do not have added sugars or added butter. you're really wanting them to taste the food by itself. You could try canned fruit or vegetables, but with canned fruit, try to find the fruit that is canned in either fruit juice with no added sugars. And you could try dried fruit. Maybe the child would like to try a raisin or a date. And again, look at that nutrition facts label and pick out the ones that have no added sugar. If you're not going to the grocery store due to COVID and you're worried about going into a store and you're ordering your foods online, then you can have the child sit next to you and you can look at your list. And if the store does not have pictures of the food, which oftentimes they do, but sometimes they don't, then you might need to Google that food. So the child, again, has that sense of choice that they get to decide. And it's quite exciting for them, and it can be fun for them. And it can be a step to help them end up tasting the food. Another idea is to have your child help you prepare meals. And this needs to be appropriate for their age. And so if they are a preschooler, you could have them scrub the vegetables or scrub the fruit if that needs to be done and it's not too big, like a watermelon or something. But if it's something smaller, perhaps the grapes, if they enjoy grapes, you could have them stir. If they are old enough that you're not worried, you could have them do it over the stove, but they'd have to be older, right, to do that. But maybe you have something that needs to be stirred that's not hot, and so they can do that. And another way they can help you prep is by adding ingredients to the menu. And they can measure and pour in and then stir. And again, when they help prepare the meal, and this is something that provides enjoyment for both them and yourself, it can help them then try the food later once it's been cooked. Offer choices. And what I mean by that is there's different ways to ask questions. You can ask a preschooler, do you want broccoli? And then the answer will be yes or no. And if it's no, then it's sort of a done deal. Now they don't want the broccoli. Rather give them a choice. Would you prefer broccoli or cauliflower? Would you prefer apple or an orange? And then the choice is no longer, do you want this or do you not want this, but rather, which one do you want? And sometimes that can be helpful for allowing the child to choose and then them eating the food. So enjoy each other while eating family meals together. And this is coming back to that idea of having happiness at the kitchen table and enjoying each other's company. If you find that the family meal has become a time of arguments and stress, it could lead to the child beginning to associate negative feelings with food, negative feelings with the family meal. And the reality is stress happens, right? And bad things happen. And it's going to spill over into family meals. But what I think what you're looking for is if all family meals seem to be negative, then trying to problem solve that to see, is there anything I can try to help this situation be more positive, to help this experience be more relaxing and satisfying and enjoyable, where we're talking about nice things rather than stressful things. So it's something to think about. And then lastly, offer the same food for the whole family. I know this can be challenging, but I highly recommend it, is having the same meal for adults and for the children. What you can do is not only be a good role model with eating the foods, you can talk about the food, the taste, the texture, the smell, and what it is you like about it, what it is you don't like about it. And again, in a positive, pleasant atmosphere. And again, not thinking this is going to happen all the time. I'm realistic about that. I think you are too. But trying to build a healthy relationship, help your child build a healthy relationship with food. So that's the tips I have for how to cope with picky eating. Now we are going to move into trying new foods. And I have a few tips for that. And the first one is small portions. In America, we have portion distortion. When we go out to restaurants, they are serving us foods that are 3 to 4 times what our bodies physically need. How the amount of calories and nutrients that we need, the restaurants have gone way above and beyond. And then it gets hard to remember that when we're feeding our children. One rule of thumb that you can remember is that your child's stomach is as big as their fist. And so if you look at my fist, so I'm an adult female, I'm 5'4", and so if this is my fist size, you can see this is about how big my stomach is, and so that would be approximately how much food I would need to physically meet my nutrient needs, right? Not mentally, but physically. And so in terms of a child, if you give them a new food, then I suggest giving them 1 or 2 tablespoons. Then if they don't eat much, you're not throwing a lot of food away, and it's not overwhelming for them. And the benefit is they're trying something new, and when they're successful, success builds on success. And then for you, you can start cooking new and different foods and kind of add to the repertoire when sometimes it seems almost like you can only eat or only make 1 or 2 foods for the kids. So I recommend that. The next one is offer only 1 new food at a time. And again, kind of going back to that idea of getting overwhelmed, children, if you offer 2 or more new foods, they can get overwhelmed and just say no, simply refuse and shut down. But if you offer 1 food on the plate and then you have 1 or 2 familiar foods, they are more apt to try the new food because then they know, okay, I have something there that I recognize, and maybe it won't be so hard to try this new thing. Be a good role model. If you try new foods and you, again, kind of think about it as a project, think about it as an experiment, and this isn't going to be happening all the time. Perhaps, again, patience is huge. And so if your Mondays through Fridays are crazy schedules, maybe those aren't really the times to do the new food thing. Maybe you would want to do it on a Saturday or Sunday if you have a little more time. You're feeling a little bit better internally. You're feeling a little more relaxed. You're able to enjoy foods with them. And again, exploring the food itself. And even the nutrient part of the food is, boy, is there vitamin C in that? That can help me not get sick or not get a cold. Or, oh my gosh, there's vitamin A in that. That will help me see better. And so to bring out some of these other parts of foods. And then again, is it crunchy? Is it soft? What does it smell like? And kind of going back to the senses. And then that helps the child appreciate the food itself. And they're quite focused on eating the food, not for emotional reasons, not for anything else, but simply because it's in front of them. And this is kind of a fun time, a fun, happy time with the family. Offer new foods first. The child will be most hungry at the beginning of the meal. And then sometimes remember that new food takes time. It can take 15 to 20 times for a child to try something before they in fact will eat it. So remembering just having them try once isn't enough. Have them do it more than that. So that's it for trying new foods. And again, I want to encourage you to not force the children to eat, but to be kind of be the cheerleader, to cheer the family on when they try something new, when they experiment, and then they talk about these different aspects of food that they're enjoying or not enjoying, for that matter. It can bring up a nice conversation. Now, resources you can look into, and you can Google these, is choosemyplate.gov and eatright.org. Eatright.org is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and both sites have helpful information, in fact, for all different age groups, but for preschoolers in particular, since that's what we're talking about. And so if you have a little time, go ahead and take a look at those. You can even get some recipes too. Now, I have a couple questions that have come in that I want to answer at this time. The first question is, mealtime feels like a battle of the wills. What should I do? And I recommend that you divide responsibilities, that as a parent, it is your responsibility to provide healthy, tasty foods. And so you are figuring out what you're going to offer, when, what time of day, and how frequently you're going to offer the food. And then lastly, where the child will eat, or where the two of you will be eating, or the whole family will be eating. And ideally, you'll be eating at the kitchen table, not allowing the child to wander around with food or to be sitting on the couch in front of a TV with food. In fact, ideally, you turn off the screen for that 15 to 20 minute family meal time, and to focus on food, to have your brain realize, yes, I am eating, this is food, this is what I'm doing. And then it helps a person, it satisfies a person quite a bit better when you're mindfully eating food. Now, so as far as that's the parent's responsibility, right, to provide the food, it is the child's responsibility to decide whether or not they will eat the food and how much. And this can be quite challenging as a parent when you are concerned about the child, you don't think the child's getting enough nutrition, and if you don't think you're able to do that division of responsibility, then it might be time to go seek out professional help to see, is your child getting the nutrients that they need? And I have one more question here, is my 3-year-old refuses to eat most fruits and vegetables. I am worried she is not getting the nutrients she needs. What can I do? And first of all, what not to do is to force feed your child. This teaches them to ignore their body's signals that they've had enough, and it can set them up for a lifetime of eating when they're not hungry. In fact, there's research in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that highlights this very idea. It found that parental pressure to eat fruits and vegetables backfires, that in fact, it discourages kids from eating produce. So that if you're able to take a deep breath, calm yourself down, take a relaxed attitude, and help your kids learn more about their internal cues and fullness cues, and about their taste preferences, and again, having conversations, pleasant conversations about the food, then we see the child enjoy more fruits and vegetables. But it takes time, and it does take patience. If you have questions, please contact me. Again, my name is Julie Mahler. It's up there on the screen. And you can email me at julie.mahler@irgpt.com, or you could give me a call, 425-337-9556. And I do offer free 15-minute nutrition consults, which can be via the computer, by email, by phone, or you can come in person if you had just a few more questions. Thanks so much.